For more on testing generally, let's bring in LabCorp CEO Adam Schechter. Adam, good afternoon to you. Thanks so much for joining us again. I mean, why don't we just start off the back of that 15-minute turnaround for that type of antigen test? Remind us where we are for LabCorp tests in terms of pace of turnaround.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me back again, Sarah and Wilfred. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, there's several different kinds of tests. There's the PCR test, which is a test that companies like LabCorp perform mostly. Those tests, we can do 200,000 or more a day right now, and it takes between 24 and 48 hours on average to get those results returned. In general, they're considered the gold standard for testing for who has the virus. The antigen tests are also an important point of care test, and I think as we move into the flu season, we're going to be glad to have as many of those as possible. I think using those both together will be very effective.
As you said, the PCR test often seen as the high watermark. We're certainly the starting point, and we've seen return times improve drastically from where we were a couple of months ago. Can they improve drastically further, or is 1 to 2 days kind of going to prove to the peak, be to the peak of turnaround time for PCR tests?
Yeah, I think about 1 day to 2 days is going to be the peak. For people in hospitals, we can turn them around in 1 day, but it takes time to get the samples from wherever they're picked up, be it at a drive-through at a drugstore or the physician's offices, to get it to our laboratory. And then once it's in our laboratory, we can usually test those in about 6 to 8 hours. So we've made a lot of progress, and we're going to continue to build capacity. Even though we can do 200,000 a day today, and in general, we're using about half of that on each day, we are still building more and more capacity as we move into the fall.
Adam, how do you think about the fact that, you know, based on this news that Meg just shared on Roche and the Abbott news and the important antigen tests that are coming up for point of care, how's that going to impact your business, which doesn't do those types of tests? And how much of your overall business is COVID-19 testing right now?
Yeah, you know, COVID-19 testing is a small part of our overall business, frankly. And if you look at LabCorp, for 50 years, we were successful with all the testing that we do. And we do about 530 million diagnostic tests a year. But 40% of our revenue comes from drug development. And we are spending a lot of time and effort working with our colleagues in pharma on vaccines for COVID, but also on treatments. So we're a very well-diversified company. COVID's a piece of what we do, but by no means is it a majority or that significant.
Where do you stand, Adam, on back to school and whether people should only be going back to school if they've actually been tested? And is that a plausible scenario anytime soon with the capacity we have in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think that we can get people back to school. And we've seen some instances where it's worked well, and we've seen some instances where it's not worked as well. I think the key is testing is a part of the solution. We can never forget the importance of social distancing, of wearing masks, of ensuring that we have good hygiene, such as washing our hands often. I think that as schools get people back, if they can continue to do that while they test people as appropriate, I do believe it can be successful to open up schools.
Adam, I'm sure you saw the news in Florida today where Governor DeSantis broke ties with Quest, your competitor, I think the #2 largest after you, for failing to report 75,000 results going back to April. One, is this something that happens? Can you relate to this issue? And two, are you going to be able to pick up the slack there?
So reporting of results we take extraordinarily seriously. We have to report all results for COVID to the CDC, to states, to individual physicians, and to consumers. And we have a whole team that's all they do all day, every day, is make sure that we're reporting appropriately to all of the states as well as the government and individuals. And we'll continue to do that as we move forward. It's very important to do that because that's the best way you can do track and tracing. Once you notify people that they have the disease in the state, that's the way that you get to them in order to try to either find out who they've been in touch with or around so that you can notify others. So for tracking and tracing, reporting is really important.
So are you expecting a big increase in business then in Florida?
You know, we'll continue to get business in Florida and all across the country. We're in every state in the country. As I said before, we're currently doing about 100 to 115,000 tests a day. We can do 200,000 a day easily today.
Adam, just really quickly, we've seen the numbers trend in the right direction in this country, and we're now looking at the lowest overall case numbers since June, I think around 30,000 level, way off the highs. Is that a factor of lower testing, or is that real progress? How do we read those numbers? Are we doing the same amount of testing and just seeing lower positives?
I think it's real progress. I mean, we are doing less testing now than what we were doing in July, but the percent of people that are being positive when they get the test has gone down as well. I think that's terrific, and it's real progress. But we're moving into flu season. And as we move into flu season, we've got to continue with what we're doing in terms of distance and masks and so forth. But LabCorp itself is going to be launching a new test as we go into the flu season, where you can get a combined COVID-19 and flu test, both at your physician's offices, and we expect to be able to do that through Pixel at home as well.
That would be useful. Pixel's a great product, by the way. Adam Schechter, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep us posted on that combined
again.
COVID flu test.